Spotify has a new ally in its competition with Apple, and it is Samsung. The companies announced a deal at an event in New York today, and that sent Spotify shares up by as much as 5.2% to $188, the biggest intraday gain in 2 weeks. Spotify is our stock of the hour, and Lucas Shaw joins us now from Los Angeles. So, Lucas, I guess the thinking here is you introduce more people to Spotify, the free version, and hope to convert them to the premium version.
Yeah, this is a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Samsung and Apple are competing to be the biggest smartphone makers in the world. Spotify and Apple are competing to be the biggest paid music services in the world. And so Samsung and Spotify team up because obviously Apple has both a music service and a phone. Apple Music comes baked into every phone that you buy. And while you have to pay for it, the fact that the icon is there on the home screen means that it's almost free marketing for people to then go and buy the service. It's one of the reasons it's been so successful. With Spotify, they don't have that built-in advantage. They've tried to be neutral and be available on every device, but forming a partnership with Samsung, making it so that when you buy a phone, it says, when you're installing it or when you're setting it up, do you want to add Spotify, means that a lot more people are going to have Spotify right in front of them. And since Spotify has a free service, that should serve as kind of a big funnel for new people to try that free service.
Lucas, what do we know about the numbers for the music subscription services in terms of subscribers, in terms of paid subscribers? How is Apple stacking up against Spotify at this point?
So Spotify is still the market leader. They have more than 80 million paid subscribers, more than 150 million total users. That's combined paid and free. I forget the exact latest numbers. Apple has not broken out the exact number, but they're at north of 50 million paid subscribers worldwide, I think. So it's a very strong second place, but still 20 to 30 million behind Spotify. They're closer in certain markets. So Apple has said that, say in the US, Canada, I believe Japan, that Apple may be number one. Spotify is still very, very strong in Europe.
Lucas, when you look at the financials of this company, unlike Apple, which of course has sort of the cushion of all these other businesses to support itself, how does Spotify continue to sort of justify the spend rate that they're doing? And how long are investors going to continue to forgive them for these continued losses?
Yeah, Spotify, in terms of the spend rate, Spotify doesn't really have a lot of options. They could spend less on R&D and new products, but almost all the money that they spend goes on getting the rights, and those are deals that they sign with labels, and they're not so different from the deals that those labels have with Apple and Tidal and other services. In fact, the rate that Spotify pays tends to be a little bit lower than others because the labels want to make sure that Spotify continues to succeed. In the few months that Spotify's been public, investors have been okay with the fact that it loses money because it's continued to grow at a pretty good rate. It's kind of the same story as Netflix in this regard, which is that investors are going to be fine with this company operating at break even or losing some money as long as it's growing and as long as there seems to be some progress in margin or cash flow or whatever metric they're choosing to focus on. So the key for Spotify is continued growth, and then they're going to have new negotiations with music companies soon enough where they will try to again improve the margins.
And investors do definitely seem okay with it. The shares are up about 42% since the IPO.
Yeah, I'd say more than okay, in fact. Lucas, going back to what you're saying about growth being what investors expect and what the company is promising here, do we know anything about how quickly Spotify can convert free users to premium users, those who pay a subscription?
I mean, in terms of the speed or how exactly that works, I'm not sure. I can say that, the rate at which they have converted free to paid has gotten better. That's been a big priority for music companies. They want to make sure that Spotify is converting because Spotify and as a result, music companies make way more from paying subscribers than free. Even though Spotify's kind of 50-50 free paid, the paid subscribers account for like 90% of their revenue. But what you've seen is, though it used to be majority free and a little bit paid for Spotify, now it's much closer.